I spent years making sure my family was financially stable. Hell, I even bought a lake house so everyone could have a place to relax and make memories together. Then one day, they all went up there for a getaway, without me. I was sitting alone in my quiet house when the phone rang. It was the bank, and what they told me made my blood run cold. There was a $500,000 mortgage under my name that I never signed for. What unfolded after that shook the foundation of my family. Family had always been my number one priority. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Michigan, I was raised to believe that family came first, no questions asked. My parents drilled that belief into me early on, especially since I was the oldest. "Nate, you've got to watch out for your brother," they'd remind me constantly. Family's all you've really got in this world. I held on to that lesson like gospel. When I turned 18, I passed on a prestigious scholarship that would have let me study overseas. Instead, I stayed close to home to help out with money after my dad's construction business hit a rough patch. I enrolled at a state school, worked 2 jobs, and still managed to graduate with honors in finance. By the time I hit 32, I had built a solid career for myself as a financial analyst at a respected firm in Detroit. I had a nice condo downtown, a decent nest egg, and the respect of everyone I worked with. My younger brother, Dylan? His story was a little different. Dylan was 4 years younger, and honestly, he'd always been the golden child, charming, extroverted, and somehow always skating by while I played by the rules. While I was busting my tail in college, Dylan was bouncing around between majors. He went through 5 of them before finally dropping out. I paid his tuition for 3 of those years. "He's just trying to figure things out," Mom would say whenever I brought up how directionless he seemed. When Dad's business ran into trouble again back in 2019, I stepped in. I helped refinance their mortgage and even covered 3 months of payments out of my own pocket. Then Dylan's clothing startup tanked, his 3rd failed business attempt. I helped him pay off $30,000 in debt from that one. And just last year, I bought that lake house about 2 hours from the city, a place meant for all of us to enjoy. I gave everyone a set of keys and told them to use it whenever they wanted. Even though the deed had my name on it, I saw it as a shared space for the family. "You're way too generous, Nate," my friend Rachel told me one morning over coffee. Rachel's a successful lawyer who specializes in financial fraud, so I figured she knew what she was talking about. "I just worry they're taking advantage of you," she said. I didn't even hesitate before I answered. "They're my family. That's just what you do." She shook her head. "There's a big difference between supporting family and letting them use you." Looking back, I should have paid more attention to that warning. But it took something way more serious for the truth to finally hit me. The first red flag came from Instagram. It was a Friday night in July. I was scrolling through my feed when I stumbled across a post from my cousin Lily. There was a big group shot taken at the lake house, my lake house. Mom and Dad were there, Dylan with his girlfriend Haley, our aunt and uncle, a bunch of cousins, all gathered around the fire pit I had personally built the summer before. I hadn't been invited. As I stared at the picture, this sick feeling settled in my gut. The caption read, "Perfect family weekend at the lake. Thanks, Dylan, for making it happen. #blessed #family time. Thanks, Dylan." It was my house. I'd paid for every board, every nail, every cushion on the damn patio furniture. I had even driven up the previous weekend to fix the dock and restock the fridge. I called my mom right away. I could hear music and laughter in the background. "Oh, Nate, honey," she said casually. "We didn't think you'd want to come. You're always so wrapped up in work." "You didn't even ask," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "And why is Lily thanking Dylan for all this?" "Well, he planned everything," she said with a laugh. "You know Dylan, he's always the life of the party." I stayed quiet. She added, "Don't be so sensitive, Nate. You can come next time." Next time. To the property I paid for. This wasn't the first time they'd left me out, either. Last Thanksgiving, they moved dinner to my aunt's place without telling me. I showed up at my parents' house with a homemade pie and found the place empty. Then on my birthday the year before, the whole family went to a baseball game together. I found out the next day, through Facebook. But like always, I swallowed my feelings and let it slide. "Sure," I said. "Next time." While I was still trying to process it all, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I didn't recognize, but the caller ID showed it was the bank.
Mr. Collins? This is Denise Palmer with First National Bank's Mortgage Division. I'm calling about your recent mortgage application. We need to go over some inconsistencies before we can move forward with final approval. I felt the temperature in the room drop. I'm sorry, what mortgage application? The $500,000 loan for the property at 1842 Oak Ridge Lane. You submitted the paperwork 3 weeks ago. I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. I had never applied for a mortgage. I didn't even know where Oak Ridge Lane was. Ms. Palmer, I didn't apply for any loan. There has to be a mistake. There was a pause on the line. Well, sir, the application we have includes your social security number, verified income, and a signed agreement. If this wasn't submitted by you, then it may be a case of identity fraud. My stomach turned. Could you email me the documents you have on file? About 20 minutes later, I was staring at a full mortgage application with my name and a signature that looked just enough like mine to fool someone. Page after page was filled out with my information. The house was a brand new 4-bedroom place in a high-end suburb. The income verification was spot on, but I had never shared those documents. Someone had clearly gotten a hold of my financial records. I called Dylan right away. Hey, bro, what's up? He answered, sounding relaxed, probably still out at the lake. I could hear the wind and water in the background. Dylan, did you apply for a mortgage in my name? I asked him point blank. What? No way, man. Why would I do that? His voice jumped a pitch, just like it always did when he was lying as a kid. Because I just got off the phone with a bank rep about a $500,000 mortgage I never applied for. Someone forged my signature. That's weird, he said a little too fast. Probably just identity theft or something. You should report it. Dylan, look, man, we're about to head out on the boat. Can we talk later? Maybe someone just stole your mail or something. And with that, he hung up. I didn't even get a chance to respond. 2 days later, after the family returned from their lakeside fun, I met them at my parents' house. I spread the mortgage papers out on the same dining table where we'd once shared birthdays and holidays. Someone want to explain this? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My dad barely glanced down at the stack. Nate, sometimes helping family means not asking too many questions. I blinked, stunned. Wait, you knew? My mom gently put her hand on my arm. Dylan and Haley are getting serious. He needs a stable home. And you've been doing so well, he's just had such a hard time. So you all thought forging my signature for a $500,000 mortgage was fine? I asked, my voice rising. Dylan finally decided to chime in. Come on, man. It's not like you can't afford it. I'll make the payments, he added quickly. Once my new business starts turning a profit. What business? I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. I'm launching a premium dog food delivery service, he said proudly, like it was a $1 billion idea. It's gonna be huge. I just stared at him. I felt like I had stepped into some twisted version of reality. That doesn't make this okay, I said. What you did is fraud. That's a federal offense. Don't be so dramatic, Dad scoffed, waving a hand like I was being ridiculous. This is what families do. Your grandfather co-signed my first mortgage. Co-signed. Not stole your identity. Now I was practically shouting. My mom's eyes filled with tears. Why do you always have to be so selfish, Nate? Your brother needs help, and you have the means. Why can't you just support him? I walked out of that house in a fog, her words echoing in my head, selfish. I kept asking myself, was I the one being unreasonable? Was this just what families did? Later that night, I sat down and checked my credit report. I needed answers. What I found nearly made me sick. 3 credit cards had been opened in my name over the past year, cards I had no idea existed. The balances totaled $47,000. On top of that, a personal loan for $25,000 had also been taken out. All of it under my name. This wasn't just identity theft. It was a complete financial hijacking done by the people I trusted most. But the real gut punch came a week later. My mom called, asking me to help with her phone. She said she was having email problems. While I was troubleshooting, a text from my dad popped up on her screen. Nate's asking about the mortgage. Did you put his tax returns back in his room? My heart sank. I opened the message thread, hands trembling. Scrolling back, I saw texts that made my blood run cold. Got the last signature for Nate's mortgage app, one from Dad read. Looks close enough to his real one. Mom replied, hope this works better than last time. Still can't believe that credit card company called him directly. Last time? I kept scrolling. What I found were months of casual conversations about using my financial info, forging signatures, and making jokes about how clueless I was. They called it Nate's contributions. Something inside me cracked. After a lifetime of being the dependable one, the helper, the backup plan, this was how they saw me. Not as family. Not as a person. Just a piggy bank. That evening, I called Rachel. I need your professional advice, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. And maybe your help. We met at her office the next day. I laid it all out, every document, every screenshot, every disgusting detail. Her face turned more serious by the minute. Nate, she said finally, this isn't just messed up, it's criminal. We're talking about identity theft, forgery, bank fraud, serious federal charges. They're my family, I said weakly. Even to me, it sounded pathetic. No, Rachel replied firmly. Family doesn't do this. They don't steal from you. They don't put your future at risk. This is exploitation, plain and simple. She introduced me to Victor Tran, a former bank fraud investigator who now worked with her firm. He sat with me and laid everything out. The bank will expect you to pay unless you report it formally, he said. Same with the credit cards. Your score's already dropping because of the outstanding debt and credit inquiries. If I file a report, I asked slowly, what happens to my parents? To Dylan? Rachel and Victor exchanged a look. They could face criminal charges, she said gently. But Nate, if you don't file, you're stuck with over $500,000 in debt. And they won't stop. They'll keep doing it. That night, I made a decision. I was done being the family ATM, done risking my future for people who clearly didn't value me as anything more than a financial safety net. It was time to take control. Over the next 2 weeks, I got to work. I filed reports with all 3 credit bureaus and froze my credit. I compiled every document I had about the fake accounts and false charges. Rachel helped me file a detailed police report. But the biggest shock came when Victor dug deeper into Dylan's past. Turned out, this wasn't his first time pulling a stunt like this. 3 years earlier, he had been arrested for check fraud using checks stolen from a roommate. My parents had paid $15,000 to settle it quietly. Money, I now realized, had come from a loan they'd guilt me into giving them, supposedly for Dad's medical bills. There never were any medical bills. Worse still, Victor uncovered that Dylan had used our late grandmother's identity after she passed, keeping her social security checks coming for nearly a year. Your brother's a repeat offender, Victor said bluntly. And your parents? They're not just enabling it. They're part of it. After that conversation, I installed discrete security cameras in my condo. It felt like overkill, but Rachel insisted it was the smart move. Rachel warned me that if they'd gone this far, they might try to get access to even more of my personal records. She wasn't wrong. Just 3 days later, my security camera caught Dylan letting himself into my condo with the spare key I'd forgotten he had. While I was at work, he went straight to my home office. The footage showed him digging through my drawers, snapping pictures of documents, and flipping through files like he owned the place. When I confronted him over text, he claimed ridiculously that he was just looking for a tie to borrow. The lie was so pathetic, it would have been funny if it hadn't hit me like a punch to the chest. The final confirmation came not long after. I paid a visit to my parents' house and recorded our conversation. Michigan's a one-party consent state, so my phone, tucked in my pocket, captured every word. I don't get why you're making such a big deal about this, my dad said, casual as ever. We've been managing your finances for years. My stomach dropped. What do you mean, managing my finances? My mom let out an annoyed sigh. The credit cards from college. The loan for Dylan's first business. You didn't actually think he got approved on his own, did you?
They admitted everything, years of financial fraud in my name, without hesitation, as if we were just talking about weekend plans. That recording sealed it. 2 weeks later, Dylan threw a housewarming party for the place he tried to buy with my stolen identity. The mortgage had fallen through thanks to the fraud alert I'd put in place, but somehow he'd managed to rent it instead. Still playing the role of the self-made man. I wasn't invited, obviously. But I showed up anyway, with Rachel and Victor at my side. The look on Dylan's face when he opened the door was priceless. His mouth dropped open. "Nate, we weren't expecting you," he stammered, trying to block the entrance. "Yeah, that seems to be a recurring theme," I said calmly. "Mind if we join the festivities?" Inside, the house buzzed with small talk and laughter, friends, family, neighbors. My parents' expressions went rigid when they spotted me. Then came the fake smiles. "Nate! What a nice surprise," my mom chirped, way too brightly. "And you brought friends." "This is Rachel and Victor," I said. "They've been helping me untangle some financial issues." Meanwhile, Dylan was playing the proud homeowner, bragging about the granite countertops and the future pool in the backyard to a group of guests. "And once my business takes off," he was saying, "that pool's getting installed right here." "Oh?" I cut in loud enough for the room to hear. "Which business is that, the gourmet dog food delivery? Or are we on to another one now?" Conversations faltered. Heads turned. Dylan gave an awkward chuckle. "Nate's the serious one in the family. I'm more of the risk taker. Entrepreneur spirit and all." "How exactly did you afford this place?" I asked. "Last I checked, successful entrepreneurs need income to rent luxury homes." That's when my dad stepped in. "Nate, let's talk. Privately." "No," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I think this is exactly the time. Since we're all here celebrating Dylan's big win, they might as well hear how he pulled it off." Dylan's jaw tightened. "You need to leave." "Why? Afraid I'll ruin your little fairy tale? That people might learn the truth, that your success is built on stolen credit and fake signatures?" My mom suddenly grabbed my arm, her voice sharp and full of performative concern. "Nate's been going through some emotional stuff lately," she announced to the now silent crowd. "He's always been a little jealous of Dylan." Aunt Denise chimed in. "Maybe it's time you talked to someone, sweetheart." "He's always been high-strung," Dad added. "Can't stand to see his brother happy." I could feel the energy shifting. The room had turned, faces filled with unease, side glances full of doubt and pity. They were painting me as the unstable one. The bitter, unstable brother. For a brief second, I felt it working. The guilt, the family obligation, the years of keeping the peace. It all nearly smothered me. But then Rachel gently squeezed my arm. I straightened up and said, loud and clear, "I'm not jealous of Dylan. I'm the victim of his crimes." I nodded to Victor, who connected his tablet to the big living room TV. One by one, the documents appeared on screen, the forged mortgage papers, the credit card statements, the personal loan. All in my name, all with my forged signature. "Dylan has been stealing my identity for years," I told the stun room. "With my parents' help." The murmurs started immediately. Confusion, disbelief. Dylan laughed nervously. "Nate's making this up," he said. "He's cracking under pressure or something." "Really?" I said. Then I played the recording. Everyone heard my parents calmly admit to using my identity, credit cards, loans, all of it. The casual tone in their voices made it worse. But we weren't done yet. Victor pulled up the security footage from my condo, the video of Dylan sneaking in, digging through my drawers, taking photos of my documents. And then came the final nail. A clip of Dylan in my living room, phone to his ear, talking to Haley. "Nate's such an idiot," he said. "He actually thinks I'll pay him back someday. The guy's too loyal for his own good. Makes him easy to use." Silence. Complete silence. Then every eye turned to Dylan. His face was white. "Oh, but there's more," I said. The last slide appeared evidence of Dylan stealing from our deceased grandmother. Keeping her Social Security payments going for nearly a year after she died. "You stole from Grandma," my cousin Lily said, her voice cracking.
After everything she did for you?
Victor stepped forward, introducing himself.
I'm Victor Tran. I've already submitted this evidence to the banks and the district attorney's office. Formal complaints have been filed. As if we had rehearsed it, a knock sounded at the door. 2 police officers stepped in, warrant in hand. Watching them cuff Dylan was surreal. He looked more shocked than afraid. Like he couldn't believe this was actually happening.
"You're my brother," he shouted as they let him out.
"How could you do this to me?" My mother sobbed. My father looked ready to explode.
"You've destroyed this family," he growled at me.
I looked him in the eye. "No. You did that all by yourselves." What came after was both harder and easier than I expected. Dylan eventually pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud and identity theft. Dylan ended up getting 5 years in prison.
As for my parents, they managed to dodge criminal charges, mostly because I couldn't bring myself to press for it. Still, they were named persons of interest in the investigation. Untangling the financial chaos they left behind took months. My credit score, which had once been just shy of perfect, tanked.
Getting the fraudulent accounts removed wasn't quick or easy.
I had to jump through endless hoops, fingerprints, notarized statements, back and forth calls with fraud departments, interviews.
It wore me down. Not once did my parents apologize.
Instead, they doubled down, telling anyone who'd listen that I had betrayed the family.
That I'd chosen money over blood.
At one point, they even showed up at my job, creating such a scene that I nearly got fired. After that, I had no choice. I filed for a restraining order. I sold the lake house. Too many poisoned memories in those walls. I used the money from the sale to put a down payment on a small place in a different city, 3 hours away.
A clean break.
I changed my phone number, wiped most of my social media, and started fresh. Not everyone in the family chose to stand with Dylan and my parents. About a month after the arrest, my Aunt Carol, my mom's sister, reached out and invited me to coffee. "I've seen how they've treated you for years," she said quietly.
Always taking. Never giving back. I should have said something a long time ago. Rachel and Victor stuck around, too.
What started as a professional connection slowly turned into something more solid, real friendship. Rachel eventually introduced me to a support group for people dealing with financial abuse from family. I was shocked by how many people in that room had stories just like mine.
Turns out, family exploitation is one of the most overlooked and underreported forms of financial abuse.
The shame, the guilt, the loyalty, it keeps people quiet for years, the group facilitator explained. Helping others in that group became part of my own healing. I shared what I'd been through, gave tips on documenting abuse, sometimes just listened. And each time someone found the strength to draw a boundary, it made me feel more secure in the ones I'd drawn myself.
It's been a year and a half since that housewarming party.
I'm standing by the window of my new apartment, watching the sun set over a city skyline I'm still getting to know.
There's a quiet here I never had before. A peace I didn't know was possible.
For once, I'm living for me, not as an extension of someone else's expectations.
On my desk sits a letter from someone in my support group. She finally confronted her sister for stealing from their aging father's bank accounts. "Your story gave me the courage," she wrote. "For the first time, I chose truth over family silence.
And it was the right choice. People still ask me if I regret pressing charges against my brother.
If I miss my parents.
If I feel guilty for tearing the family apart.
The answer is simple: I don't.
What I regret is waiting so long to protect myself. Not realizing that real family wants to see you thrive, not use you.
That love without respect isn't really love at all.
Sometimes, the hardest thing and the right thing are the same. Sometimes, cutting ties is the only path to healing.
And sometimes, the family you're born into isn't the one you're meant to keep.
What would you do if you had to choose between family loyalty and your own truth?
I never thought I'd be faced with that question. But I was. And when I finally answered it, I found freedom.